you said the wrong name, or you walked straight into a glass door that everyone else saw coming, or a text you wrote at 2 in the morning got read out loud to a room full of people who were never meant to hear it. And in the 2 seconds that followed, before you could arrange your face into something calm, the blood rose into your cheeks and told everyone in the room exactly how you felt. You did not choose it, and you could not stop it. Right now, a dog is doing something humiliating and feeling nothing at all. A cat has knocked a glass off a table and is staring at you with total serenity. Every other creature alive can hide what is happening inside its body. Its skin keeps its secrets. Yours does not. You are, as far as anyone can tell, the only animal on Earth whose face turns red when it feels watched, judged, or exposed. This has nothing to do with being hurt or too warm. It comes from the pure social weight of being seen. And it raises a question that sounds silly until you sit with it, and then it will not leave you alone. Why would evolution, which spent hundreds of millions of years perfecting survival, build exactly one animal with a face that gives it away? The answer runs far deeper than embarrassment, and by the time we are done, you will never think about going red the same way again. If you are enjoying this so far, hit the like button and subscribe. It genuinely helps. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you are watching from, because I actually read them. Almost everyone assumes the same thing about blushing, and it is a reasonable thing to assume. It feels like a malfunction, a glitch in an otherwise well-designed body. If you could open the settings on yourself and disable one feature, plenty of people would put blushing near the top of the list, right above hiccups and just below the noise your stomach makes in a silent room. It seems to do nothing useful for you. It arrives at the worst possible moment, during the job interview, the first date, the second you get caught in a small lie, and it makes an already bad situation visibly worse by informing every witness that you know it is worse. A racing heart is private. Sweating palms can be shoved into your pockets. A red face is a public broadcast, transmitted on a channel you do not control, to an audience you did not choose. For a creature that has spent its whole existence learning to manage how others see it, this looks like a catastrophic design error. So that is the premise most of us carry. Blushing is a weakness, an evolutionary hangover left over from something we should have outgrown. The one honest thing about an animal that would very much prefer to keep its options open. It is a tidy explanation. It also happens to be almost completely wrong, and the first person to seriously suspect that was a man who noticed that this supposedly useless reflex had one very strange property. It was everywhere. In 1872, Charles Darwin published a book that people talk about far less than his work on finches and natural selection. It was called The Expression of the Emotions in Man and Animals, and in it he called blushing the most peculiar and the most human of all expressions. That phrasing was deliberate. Darwin was fascinated by blushing precisely because it seemed to break his own rules. Natural selection is supposed to favor traits that help an organism survive and reproduce, and a face that turns red at the worst moment looks like the opposite of an advantage. So he did what Darwin did with everything he could not explain. He gathered evidence. He wrote letters to missionaries, colonists, and doctors stationed across nearly every continent, and he asked them one simple thing: do the people here blush? And if so, can you see it? The replies came back from populations that had never met one another, that shared no recent ancestry, that lived in wildly different climates under wildly different customs. The answer was the same everywhere. People blushed. Darker skin made it harder to see, but the observers reported the same rush of heat and the same instinct to turn away. Blushing belonged to the whole species, not to any one culture's manners, as universal as laughing or weeping. For Darwin, and for us, one detail towered over all the others. No other creature does it. Dogs feel fear. Chimpanzees, our closest relatives, feel something a great deal like shame, and something a great deal like status anxiety. None of them goes red in the face because it has been caught, or praised, or stared at. That reaction belongs to us alone. Darwin also noticed something about the trigger that deepened the mystery instead of solving it. Blushing is not set off by what you have done. It is set off by what you imagine other people are thinking about you. He pointed out that a person can be falsely accused of a crime they never committed and blush a deep scarlet in front of their accuser, while a real criminal, certain that no one suspects them, keeps a face of perfect calm. What burns is the belief that others are judging you, whether or not you have actually done anything. You can be completely innocent and still go red, as long as you feel yourself being watched and weighed. You can be truly guilty and stay cool, as long as you are sure no one knows. Whatever this reflex answers to, it is the thought of being seen inside another mind, not your private sense of right and wrong. To understand why the blush is so strange, look at what is actually happening under the skin. When you feel embarrassed, your sympathetic nervous system fires, the same system that runs fight or flight. In almost every other part of your body, that signal tightens the blood vessels. In your face, it does the reverse. The small vessels near the surface of your cheeks widen, blood floods in, and the skin visibly reddens. Researchers who have studied the blood vessels of the face have found that they behave a little differently from those elsewhere in the body, more responsive to the chemical signals of emotion, which may be part of why the reaction shows up there and almost nowhere else. Whatever the exact plumbing, the result is the same and impossible to miss, and you have no voluntary control over any of it. You cannot decide to blush the way you can decide to smile, and you cannot decide to stop once it has started. This is the detail that everything else hangs on. A smile is easy to fake. A frown can be performed on command. Tears can be summoned by a good enough actor. The blush cannot. It is one of the very few things a human body does that is completely impossible to counterfeit, which means that when you see it on someone, you are looking at something true. And that unfakeable honesty turns out to be the entire point. In 2011, a group of psychologists at the University of Groningen, led by Corien Dijk and Peter de Jong, ran an experiment to find out what blushing actually does to the people who witness it. They built situations in which a person had broken a social rule, a small mishap, a moment of clumsiness, a minor betrayal in a trust game where the person let a partner down. Then they showed observers two versions of that same person. In one, the person was blushing. In the other, the same person was not. Over and over, the observers judged the blushing version more kindly, more trustworthy, more deserving of a second chance. When the person had defected in a game of cooperation, the one shown blushing afterward was trusted again far more readily than the one wearing a calm, untroubled face. The researchers titled their paper, with a completely straight face, "Saved by the Blush." Stay with how strange that is for a moment. The reaction you would pay money to switch off, the one that turns up to humiliate you at the exact wrong instant, is the same reaction that makes other people decide you are worth trusting. The Groningen team were not the only ones to land on this. At the University of California, researchers including Dacher Keltner and Rob Viller studied embarrassment more broadly. The whole cluster of it. The blush along with the averted eyes, the nervous half-smile, the small apologetic touch of the hand to the face. They found that these displays work like a wordless apology, a gesture of submission close to the ones other primates use to diffuse a conflict before it turns dangerous. In a set of studies published in 2012, they showed that people who are more easily embarrassed are also, on average, more generous and more cooperative, and that strangers read them that way correctly. Watch someone go visibly flustered after a small slip, and you instinctively file them as a safer person to deal with. The embarrassment is doing precisely what it evolved to do. It tells the group, without a single word, that here is someone who plays by the rules and can be welcomed back in. The logic underneath all of this is worth pulling apart, because it explains how a signal that hurts you can still win. Every human group, ancient or modern, has to solve the same brutal problem. How do you tell the difference between someone who will honor an agreement and someone who will smile, promise, and betray you the moment your back is turned? Words are cheap. A calm face is cheap. But a person whose skin reddens against their own will when they let you down has handed you information they could not have faked even if they wanted to. Picture two people who make the same mistake, who both forget your name or take a little more than their share. One goes red, drops their eyes, and clearly cannot hide how badly they feel. The other stays cool and unbothered. Which one do you instinctively trust the next time it matters? The blusher is telling you something the calm one never will. They are telling you, in a signal they could not counterfeit, that they know the rules, that they care about the rules, and that being caught breaking them truly costs them something on the inside. In a species that survives entirely on cooperation, on trusting near strangers to share food and keep promises, and not turn on you the instant it pays to, a guarantee of sincerity that cannot be faked is worth more than almost anything else. The red face is that guarantee. If this is making you think, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss one. This channel only exists because of the people who share these videos, and I do not take that lightly. So the story looks solved. Blushing is an honest apology written in blood, a signal that repairs the damage of a mistake by proving you regret it. That explanation runs into a wall almost immediately, and the wall is something you have felt in your own skin. Because you do not only blush when you have done something wrong, you blush when someone compliments you in front of other people. A room full of coworkers sings happy birthday. Every eye swings to your face, and there it is. A teacher praises your work out loud, and your cheeks give you away before you can say thank you. Someone you have a crush on holds your gaze a beat too long, or you win an award and have to walk to the front while the whole room watches you walk. Nothing has gone wrong in any of those moments. There is no rule to apologize for, no betrayal to repair, no mistake to feel sorry about. You are being celebrated, and your face still catches fire. If blushing were only an apology, this would make no sense at all. Something else is running the show, and it reaches down into a stranger, deeper fact about what it feels like to be seen. W. Ray Crozier, a psychologist who has spent much of his career studying exactly this, put his finger on the thread that ties the humiliating blush and the flattered blush together. The common element is exposure. What sets off the reaction in every case is the sudden, sharp awareness that you have become the center of other people's attention, that a cluster of minds are all pointed at you at once, and that you exist, right now, as a vivid object inside every one of them. The reason for the attention, whether it is a blunder or a compliment, barely matters. What the face is responding to is the attention itself, the raw experience of being seen. Which opens a far deeper question than the one we started with, because if the blush is triggered by the bare fact of being an object of attention, then it is tangled up with one of the rarest and most powerful abilities the human mind has ever produced. The ability to step outside yourself and see yourself the way other people do. To see how deep that ability runs, watch a child grow into it. A newborn does not blush from embarrassment. Neither does a 1-year-old. You can do the most humiliating things imaginable in front of an infant, and it will not care in the slightest, because it does not yet have the equipment to care. Then, somewhere around the middle of the 2nd year, something remarkable switches on. The developmental psychologist Michael Lewis demonstrated it with a simple test. Put a small dot of rouge on a toddler's nose and sit them in front of a mirror. Younger babies reach out to touch the baby in the glass. But at around 18 months to 2 years, children start reaching for their own nose instead. They have understood, for the first time, that the face in the mirror is them. That flicker of recognition is the birth of self-awareness, and it does not arrive alone. Almost exactly when children pass that mirror test, they begin to show the first signs of embarrassment. They cover their faces. They squirm when attention lands on them. Given the chance, they try to hide. And a little later, once they can not only recognize themselves but picture what is happening inside someone else's head, once they grasp that other people are forming opinions of them, the full blush of self-consciousness appears, usually somewhere between the ages of 4 and 5. That last step is the one that matters most. Recognizing yourself in a mirror is only a start. The full blush needs more than self-recognition. It needs the ability to model another person's mind. To understand that behind someone else's eyes there is a running commentary in which you are a character, and that the commentary can be warm or scornful or amused. Psychologists call this theory of mind, and it comes online in stages across early childhood. As it sharpens, the blush sharpens with it, because the blush depends on it completely. To be embarrassed, you have to be able to imagine the one thing you can never actually see, which is what you look like from inside someone else's head. The timing gives the whole thing away. Language arrives on its own schedule. Fear is present from birth. The blush waits for one specific development, and only that one. It waits until a human mind becomes able to hold itself inside the minds of others. The red face is the physical signature of that ability switching on. It is what it looks like, from the outside, when a person realizes they are being seen as a self. And now the design that looked like a catastrophic error starts to look like something close to genius. Think about what kind of animal we really are. Humans are, without much competition, the most sophisticated deceivers on the planet. We lie with our words and our faces and the careful way we hold our bodies. We can perform an emotion we do not feel, conceal one we do, and keep the act running for years. This hidden inner life is old, older than cities, older than farming, and maybe as old as the human mind itself. It is one of the things that made us so successful and so dangerous to each other in equal measure. But a species of skilled liars has a problem it cannot think its way out of. If everyone can fake sincerity, then no one can trust sincerity, and cooperation between strangers starts to fall apart. You need at least one signal that cannot be gamed. One channel that keeps telling the truth, even when its owner is begging it to stay quiet. That channel is the blush. Evolution handed the best liars on Earth exactly one tell they cannot control. A small involuntary honesty wired straight into the face and parked in the one spot everyone is already looking. It runs on the same machinery as fear and stress. It fires below the reach of the conscious will, and it cannot be summoned or silenced by the person it exposes. In a creature built to hide, the blush is the one part that refuses to. And that refusal is the foundation the entire system of human trust stands on. The reason the Groningen study worked, the reason a red-faced apology lands where a calm one falls flat, is that everyone, somewhere in their bones, already knows the blush cannot lie. Once you see that, a lot of small human things quietly rearrange themselves. The intensity of a blush tracks almost perfectly with how much you care what one particular person thinks of you. You barely color in front of a stranger you will never meet again. You go crimson in front of the one person whose good opinion you would do almost anything to keep. The blush is an involuntary confession of who matters to you, printed on your face without your permission. There is even a cruel fairness to who it strikes hardest. The people most prone to blushing tend to be the ones who care most about being good, about being liked, about never letting anyone down. The reflex punishes conscientiousness. The finer your sense of other people, the more readily your own face will give you away. It is also why blushing feeds on itself so mercilessly. The instant you notice that you are blushing, you become even more aware of being watched, which is the exact trigger, so the color deepens, which makes you more self-conscious still. A few people suffer from this so severely that it becomes a genuine disorder, a fear of blushing so intense that a small number have chosen surgery that cuts the nerves feeding the face, trading a permanently rewired nervous system for the promise of never turning red in a meeting again. That is how heavy the weight of being seen can become. So go back to the beginning, to the wrong name, the glass door, the text read out loud, and the 2 seconds of heat you would have given almost anything to prevent. That heat is the receipt for something no other animal on this planet has ever been handed. A dog knocks over the glass and feels nothing, because a dog cannot picture itself as a character in your story. A cat stares back at you with perfect calm, because there is no version of the cat living inside the cat's own head to be embarrassed for. You turn red because you can do the thing they cannot. You can step outside your own body, look back at yourself the way the people around you are looking, and understand, instantly and completely, that you exist inside their minds, as surely as you exist inside your own. Every blush you have ever hated was proof of that impossible trick your mind performs 1,000 times a day without you ever noticing it happen. The animals keep their secrets, and they pay for it with a kind of loneliness they will never even know they are in, sealed forever inside themselves, unable to wonder what anyone thinks of them. You lose your secrets sometimes at the worst possible moment, in a hot rush of color you never asked for and cannot take back. But you were given something in that trade they never will be. You know that you are being seen. And your face, whether you ever wanted it to or not, has always known how to say so. Thank you for watching until the end. If this changed how you see something, check out the videos on screen, because I think they will hit the same way. And subscribe if you have not already. See you in the next one.